أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In this session, we are going to look into how to use QDA Miner Lite for our literature review. It is important that before we go on and discuss how to use QDA Miner Lite for literature review, the scholars may watch the earlier video on how to structure a literature review. Now, once you watch that video on how to structure the literature review, you can make a best use of the software, because then you know what are the different sections and subsections in a literature review. So for instance, let's say I'm writing a research paper on servant leadership and organizational performance, or servant leadership and life satisfaction, or maybe any independent and dependent variable with the mediators. Now that video on literature review, or the structure and format of the literature review, will help you format and structure your literature review. Let us assume that we are working on a topic, let's say servant leadership and life satisfaction. And the mediating variable is let's say knowledge sharing and self-efficacy. Now, how will I use QDA Miner Lite to help me write literature review for this particular study? Now, before I go into detail, I will first structure my literature review. So first, individual discussion on variables. For this, you have already seen my video on structure and format of literature review, sharing, self. This is the individual discussion on variables. Now, the next part is relative or relationship between variables. So, servant leadership and life satisfaction. Servant leadership and knowledge sharing. Servant leadership and self-efficacy. Knowledge sharing and life satisfaction. Self-efficacy and life satisfaction. And finally, mediating role of knowledge sharing and mediating role of self-efficacy. Now what I will do is, I will try to create these into QDA Miner Lite as categories, and in each category I will have a different codes. So when we are individually discussing a variable, let's say servant leadership or any of these variables, the first step that we do is we look for their definitions. So what I'll do is, let's say I go to QDA Miner Lite, I will go to retrieve, and I will retrieve some text. I want to retrieve this text in these documents that I have here, and then I want to look into the sentences. So for example, the word servant leadership, if it appears with the word definition, define, state, refer in a single sentence, we may assume that that particular sentence is focusing on the definition of that concept. So how will we write its string or search? Servant leadership are two words, so we'll put it in quotes, and then we will write, let's say, define. Now definition, defined are the variants of the word define, so we will write DEFIN and then asterisk, and then we can say refer, referred, refers, so we can use this like this as well. And then similarly state as well, state, stated, states, like this as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write search or click search. So once you click search, it will start searching these papers. And in this case, I have 0 search hits. Now the mistake that I have done here is that I have to add and. So the statement or the sentence should have these, or rather just slight change. It could be and define. So better to learn from the mistake. Or so a sentence can have servant leadership or one of these variants of these words. Now once you click search, what happens is that that particular sentence is going to look for define, refer or state, either one of them, and servant leadership in one sentence. So any sentence that has got servant leadership and one of these will be selected and will be added into this search hit tab. Now click search. Now I've got 597 hits that have got, or 597 sentences in these 300 plus papers that have got servant leadership and one of these words in the same sentence. Now if I click here, let's see what is this. However, despite its introduction for 4 decades ago and empirical studies that started more than 10 years ago, there is still no consensus about the definition and theoretical framework of servant leadership. So this is how the servant leadership and its conceptualization is limited. And then we can have other sentences as well. Now you can delete these that you think are not appropriate. Just select this and press this bin button and it will be deleted. Now just in case, let's say after deletion you come across, let's say 100 or 50 or 70 definitions or 70 statements, what I will do is I will code them. To code them, I will press this define new code. The code name is these is the definitions, or these are the definitions. Under category servant leadership, and let's call or put them in red color and press OK. Now once you do it, make sure you code all hits. You have just defined the code, you haven't coded them, you haven't saved them into the software. Code all hits, press yes. Now they are coded. See this? These are coded. And see this category servant leadership definition. Now as discussed in that earlier video on literature review, apart from the definition in that particular heading of servant leadership, we do discuss the value of servant leadership as well, the importance of servant leadership as well. So how to do this? In order to identify the value of servant leadership, I'm just going to change here and use different variants of the word that may explain the value, the importance of this concept. So let's say I write value or need, or let's say why. So let's see if we get something. Let's search. So we've got 972 hits. So let's see if these sentences are important. It is argued that leaders who combine their motivation to lead with need to serve display servant leadership. Okay, it's a very good sentence, may be used. In view of current demand for more ethical, people-centered management leadership inspired by the ideas from servant leadership theory may very well be what organization need now. This is a very good sentence explaining the need of servant leadership, and this is what I wanted to discuss. So this is how you can use QDA Miner Lite to search for relevant sentences. Now again, I will code it. Click here, and this is importance of servant leadership, and it will be under servant leadership category. I'm not going to change or add a new category. I'll press OK and I will code all hits. Yes. So this is how this individual discussion of variables I can extract the literature from QDA Miner Lite. Now similarly, you can do it for other variables as well. Like you can do it for life satisfaction, knowledge sharing and self-efficacy, provided you have got relevant papers in your folder. Now I'm going to do one again for servant leadership and life satisfaction. So let's say I want to explain the reason or the relationship of servant leadership and life satisfaction as to why they are related. Now I'm moving towards proposition of my hypothesis. So how am I going to use QDA Miner Lite for this? So I've coded all hits. Yes, all done. So go to search expression again. So servant leadership and I want to explain the relationship, its relationship with life satisfaction. So let's say if we get something directly, let's say on life satisfaction. Now life satisfaction is also one of the dimension of well-being. So maybe we can use it life satisfaction, or let's say well-being, or we can say, let's say if we get something like satisfaction as well, and if those statements are relevant we can use them, otherwise we can delete them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to search again. Now I've got quite a few hits here, 1381. Now it's better to filter them, and let's say I read this one here. Positive job attitudes are most frequently studied with regards to servant leadership in terms of job satisfaction, this and this. So maybe if you think this is important when explaining gaps, you can use it. Wang 2009, who studied supervisors' ratings of their servant leadership behavior in relation to subordinate contextual performance and job satisfaction. Not really. This is a reference. Maybe this line here. In other words, because strong social interactions between leader and followers enhance the diversity of knowledge exchange, the egalitarianism that underlies servant leadership becomes more useful for followers, enabling them to leverage the focus that the leader puts on their personal well-being. Now, this statement can be used to establish the relationship between servant leadership and life satisfaction. Let's say after deleting a few of these statements that were searched, you can delete them by clicking just here. You start to code them, or you want to code them. I want to code them as servant leadership and life satisfaction under the category servant leadership and life satisfaction. Or let's say relationship of servant leadership and life satisfaction. Press OK. Now this is another category and these are the codes. Now let's say I want to search any theory that has linked life satisfaction or satisfaction with servant leadership. So and I will write theory here and I'll search. And now let's see, we've got 50 hits. So these statements here we can look into and see what theory has been used with servant leadership and variables related to well-being, satisfaction or life satisfaction. And we need to study furthermore as to how or whether this theory or this particular theory is applicable or not. Now this is how you can use, and again I will code it. How I will code it? Define new code, servant leadership and life satisfaction theory. And once I do this, I want it to be in the same category as servant leadership and life satisfaction. Okay. And see, it is under the same category, under the same section, as you may say. And now similarly, you can do this for all the other sections in your study. This is how you are using existing literature or those 300, 400 papers to create your literature review or structure of literature review using QDA Miner Lite. Now let's assume I want to export these segments into a Word document. So what I can do is right click, retrieve some segments. And what I can do is I can click here, create coded segments report. Now let's say I'm interested in definitions. Export. And this is what we get. The codes for definition, all these are here. So these are quite a number of pages. That's why I always encourage to remove the unnecessary codes as required. Now we can further remove them here like this and then export it as well. So what you simply need to do is, let's say I right click, retrieve segments, and herein you can delete these ones if you want. Whatever you want to delete, you can delete them and then export your results. So this is how you can create the report based on your search results as well. Thank you very much.